Hi, everyone. This is Kalika with the EO Wonder podcast. And today I'm here with the incredible Trent M. Clark. He's a keynote speaker, facilitator, and trusted advisor. And he's the founder of Courage Coach and Leadershipity, the CEO of Athletic Influencer Marketing, a three-time Major League Baseball World Series coach. And he's best known for being in the Major League Baseball coaching arena for 12 plus years and being in three World Series. So, Trent, welcome to the EO Wonder podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, I'm excited just to be here. That's great.
I first met you as a facilitator for a mentorship group at EO Los Angeles. And since then, you had made such an incredible impact. I really enjoyed your story. And I would love for everyone to meet you. And maybe you could just start at the beginning of your journey as an athlete and as now as an entrepreneur and also a father of five kids.
5 kids, yeah. My journey for entrepreneurship started as a kid. I had a paper route. Like, that was when I got started in business, and I was shoveling snow in Michigan for the winters and mowing lawn in the summer, and I was the youngest of 4, and I was hustling to make money, and I remember, like, when I was in junior high, I went to my first practice, and I had 3 of my friends. Each I paid them $1 to do one of my 3 routes, and each one took 1 route, and they did that all week, so they were all excited because they each made $5. But I made $5 every day on those 3 routes. So I went to football practice and I made $2 a day, and so at the end of Friday, I made $10 going to football practice, and that's when I thought I arrived, Khalid. I was like, "Wow, I'm like a business owner, and I've got, like, people working for me." I thought I was kind of a big deal, and, so that's when I started learning, but, yeah, my passion for athletics was always there. I was using the work just to get me to the pro sport level, right? But I was learning so many lessons along the way about work, right? And it was really good.
And you were in two Division One, so you're baseball and football. Tell us a little bit about
I
that.
played both baseball and tennis. Yeah, yeah, 2 common sports that clash constantly. Yeah,
Wow.
it was a rarity. Yeah, I wish I could have played football, but, you've met me before. I don't look like a football player, right? I'm not that big. So
But, where there's a will, there's a way.
oh, right. Yeah, for sure. I always saw myself, like, when I was, like, 8th grade, I thought, "I'm gonna be a football player." I mean, baseball was like, "Yeah, I like it and I'm good," but, like, I wanna be a football player, and then I broke my leg playing, and then, kids kept growing and I didn't, and I was like, "Man, I am getting smacked in the mouth all the time. This is getting less fun now," as I couldn't really run away from bigger kids anymore for a while, and so it was, there was a period where I thought, maybe I need to rethink this pro football thing.
Have you always been a natural athlete, or was that something like Michael Jordan where he had to work at it?
Um, I think there were some natural gifts there that certainly helped me along the way, but I'm 5'6", 170 pounds. I don't look like pro athletes. So I had to work hard at that. And my brothers, my family, we were all into sports. So fortunately for me, like, one of my older brothers got a Division 1 football scholarship when I was about 13 years old. So he went to college and was learning how to lift weights, and we were always training, and so then we were adding all these other kind of training things. And you can imagine, Kalika, here I'm dating myself, but, when I was in junior high, the number one movie was Rocky, right?
Oh,
And we were
yeah.
like eating raw
The
eggs and
best.
training. And yeah, we thought we were like, hey, we're going to be like
Eye
Rocky
of
and
the
stuff,
Tiger.
carry wood upstairs and things, like we were just silly kids just thinking we were going to be the next Rocky, you know?
So your parents, I mean, they've raised athletes, I mean, competitive, I mean, collegiate and professional athletes. Was it something with their training that mattered or?
No, I don't think so. I think they set a good example of, like, hard work and, Midwest values and, never given, always earned, and so I think that we established that, and we weren't particularly wealthy, so it was one of these things, like, if you wanted something, you should go get that. I remember asking my dad, like, "Hey, listen, like, I need some gas in the car," and he's like, yeah, right. Like, yeah, like, I care. You don't have gas for your car, then you don't go anywhere, man. Like, that's it. Like, and so it was a lesson, like, man, I gotta work. And so there was independence that as a kid, I always had money. Like I always had money to take a girlfriend out to lunch or to go to a movie or do whatever. I mean, that was really valuable to me because that gave me a level of independence that I saw other kids didn't need. Where they were like, "Hey, Dad, can I get 20 bucks so we can go to the movie?" And I was like, I asked that once and found out at a young age, like, it's a
Get
no,
the hell
so
out of
don't
here.
even
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
And so it was a good era, I think, to be alive in the late 70s and the early 80s. It was a pretty dynamic time, but, I think there was a lot of lessons there.
Well, you're Gen X? Gen X?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best generation. I mean, that's what all the kids are saying on TikTok, like it's just like tough love. It's just like you fall down, get up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a very yeah, I think my kids got tired of hearing like, "Hey, you fall, you're hurt. You should rub some dirt in it. It'll get better." Like, we're not running to the medicine cabinet and putting, and you're going to the hospital for a boo-boo. Like, come on, like, that never I mean, I don't know. My dad took me to the hospital when I broke my leg in the game. Like, it wasn't like an ambulance came and he was like, "Hey, listen, I can put you in the car and we can go to the hospital and, let's get a cast on the thing." It's like, "All right, like, that's cool." So, yeah, I mean, I drove one of my guys. He broke his arm in half on a snowboard hill, and I'm like, "Yeah, let me drive you into Traverse City. We got to get this thing fixed," and that's just, kind of how we were raised.
Is that, this sort of unflappable spirit that helps you with running businesses or being a family man?
Well, I mean, first of all, yeah, I don't know if I have definitely a passion, Kalika, and energy for the spirit to be the best I can be. But, I don't think I'm unflappable. Like, I'm the first person who can get rattled and be like in my own dome and be like, man, I got to be better than this. Like, Kalika's expecting more from me. And I'm like, I'm hard on myself, and I feel like, there's a lot of things there that I felt like I could do better. And but I think there's a resilience that is no a real answer. Like, is there another way around? Like there's probably, 50 different answers to this question. So if I got no as being one of them, like maybe I'm not asking the right question. So, I think there was always something that I learned there about being resourceful and understanding that, hey, my lens isn't like everybody else's lens, and that's really fair. And I have to respect that other person's lens too, as long as I think it's really important that we respect each other's lenses, right? And I was on a yeah, I'm going to tell this on EO. This is great. I was on a diversity, equity, and inclusion panel, and they wanted me off, right? I'm a middle-aged white guy. Like, I don't know if you'd be a great candidate. And I said, man, like I had to defend my diversity, equity, inclusion experience. I was like, well, you know what? I did go to the World Series and won a world championship with, 30 other men from 12 different countries speaking 9 different languages from probably 24 different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like, yeah, color is a dynamic to our diversity, but there's all sorts of dynamics to our diversity, right? And so we should consider all of them. And so we should talk about that. And they're like, "Oh, okay, you can stay on the panel." I was like, I had to like earn it, I thought like,
Well,
all right,
they
that's how
were
it goes.
they weren't being aware just because they were judging you by the cover, right? Like they
Yeah, I think that's the
automatically said
challenge.
you're going to be racist just
Yeah,
because you're
that's the
white.
challenge of it all, right? Is
Yeah.
like, we all have biases. We all have, things we grew up with. We run in those, we have our already always listening voice and we think we know what's about to happen. And we have our own little, things that we hold against people. And it's unfortunate, but we do it and it's based on life experiences. And, one of the fabulous EO members that I love, Allison Hodson, she's out of, Edmonton, and Allison is noted for having great gut. She has this great gut feel. Like she just figures it out. But I don't believe in gut. And I told her that. I was like, I don't believe in it, Allison. Like, you don't have a great gut. Like what you have is an uncanny ability to sponge every experience in her life and take not only the bad and adjust it because we're really good, most of us at that. When it goes bad, we're really good at like, oh, I got to fix that. But she also gathers the good and goes, hey, this is going to be good again if I do this. And she gets the good and the bad, and then she indexes it. So like she can pull that information back out and everyone go, hey, Kalika, and try to have a problem. And then she goes, oh, you know what? My gut tells me this. And I'm like, that's not your gut. That's the 25 experiences you've had that Kalika and I are now experiencing for the first time. And you're going, oh, this is what worked and this is what didn't. But she's like saying, like, oh, I was like, oh, hey, I got a feeling about this. Like, well, it's really an experience that she's had and garnered all of it from it. So that's an impressive quality in the entrepreneurs and probably a big factor of why a lot of people are in EO is they're really good at that.
Yeah, they're open to learning, right? The thirst for learning is there.
Oh yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
so
I wanted to
huge.
go
And
back to the other comment that I said about you being unflappable, because when I was watching you facilitate these mentors and these mentees, you had just this like really cool, maybe it's just like the popular kid kind of like, like just walking in, like you had full control over the room. And even when people were making comments, like you would either you learned how to make a, not a joke out of it, but you lightened up the room and it was I guess the way I could describe it is not only unflappable, but also charismatic. And the way where you're like, well, I could always be better. Isn't that also true? Like being an entrepreneur, like I'm good, but let me just be the best of the best.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think that, first of all, the entrepreneurship in the entrepreneur room, you and I both know that's a tough room, right?
Oh,
There
yeah.
are a bunch of superstar high
Big
performers.
egos.
Oh my goodness, right? It's a little intimidating. And I certainly gather the fact that I'm intimidated too by it all the time. Like all the time. I may not look like it, but
No.
I am intimidated by it because I have such an honor for the entrepreneurs who've done this, right? Talking about 3.5% only reach this level. So it's rare air as it is. And so I really just have a big honor for what the folks are doing. And I've through my 12 years now in EO, it's just been amazing to see how people create value and job opportunities for so many people. And this really makes our capitalistic engine go here in America. This is if our little businesses, Kalika, right, are only the 3%, like holy cow, this whole thing's founded on small business, right? So when you go in, you take that risk. I just think it's so great. But I think probably how I developed that, Kalika, was some tough skin because pro sports and EO is very similar, right? Like it's these really great players and they're really skilled at something and they do it really well. And because they're so good at something, they've been raised up this whole time in their lives. And so they've experienced better coaching. They've invested in themselves. They're lifelong learners and they keep sponging this up. And then you're going to go in a room with 20 to 40 people just like you. And everybody kind of checks their ego at the door because it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like they're all there. So when I'm there, I feel like everybody does a pretty good job of checking their ego at the door. And now we're all there to just be the best we can. And we go in there and we dig in and we get at it. And then we leave. And there's probably, once we leave and go into the world, there's probably a little swag, right? with these entrepreneurs and these athletes. But, when all together, I find the similarities very close. So I probably have a level of confidence because I have a lot of experience in it, I think that probably shows up in that environment.
I mean, that is a big deal for you to get into pro sports. I mean, we also have lots of entrepreneurs with kids. Like my daughter wants to play Division 1 volleyball. And do you have any tips for them, like entrepreneur parents who were trying to raise athletic kids?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, love it. Like it's, whatever kids are dreaming about, I love it. Like it's the absolute ultimate as a parent to help your child move to the direction they want to go. And the reason for that is because high performing parents had someone else come alongside and help them, whether it was their parents, a mentor, a neighbor, a coach, somebody came in and said, you can do it. You've got what it takes. And entrepreneur parents will do that. They will be like, hey, you've got all the tools you need right here to make that happen. And sometimes I think that's really tough on a kid because like, no, 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 I don't have what Janie has, or I don't have what Gordon has, or like, well, everything is here and it can be done. You may have to work harder than they do because they have some certain advantages, but you have all the tools possible, and it's very likely it can happen, but it is up to you. Like I can't go out there and play for them. You can't go play for them, just like they can't come and do your job, right? Like, so they can't own your company. You've got to do that. And so the independence really becomes like, hey, how bad do you want this? How well do you understand the commitment it's going to take? And are you willing? And I think great athletes and great entrepreneurs are the people that always say, I will. And if you can develop your kids to say, I will, I will. Hey, who will take out the garbage? Oh, I will, mom. Let me take care of that for you because I want to honor you, mom. And you do so much for us. And hey, coach, I will. I'll play out of position today. I'll play libero today because I know I'm not that many, but our libero's sick and, we need to step up and I'll help. I will. The coach, every leader is looking for the people that will say, I will. Aren't we all doing that in our teams, Kalika? Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I love that I will. And for us, well, when I talk about it, when I'm coaching other entrepreneurs, it's that willingness. So it's actually a process. So you may not feel like taking that step, creating that Instagram account, for your, whatever, like you don't want to do, but are you willing to do that? Right.
Yeah.
And that willingness, that I will attitude will take you from bravery to courage, right? And that's what your company's called, Courage Coach, right?
Yeah.
That is the S for courage, is that willingness.
Yeah. I think that's so strong right there that it is absolutely the fuel, right? And when you have that, like, and I think, as a parent, I'm always asking, hey, are you interested? Are you committed? Are you interested in playing Division 1 volleyball? Means I'm talking about it. Like, hey, I'm thinking about joining a club where I can train harder. And I know this club across town that, I'm looking into what that would cost and whether I would go. The committed are doing it, right? The interested are talking about it and the committed are actually doing it. So she's like, Mom, I got this club. Let me show you the 5 reasons why I have to join this club and I will participate. I'll get a job in the summer to help the extra $1,000 that we're going to need in gas money because it's an extra 45 minutes away. Like, show me and make me a believer. And so you got to show that commitment to people. And interested people are pretty easy to spot because they're talking about it. And all of us who are owning businesses, coaching folks, we want the committed, right? We want the people that are all in and willing to lay it on the line. By the way, win or lose, I'm all right with the athlete. And I don't know how many times, what's your daughter's name?
Kailani.
Kalani. So I don't know how many times I've watched an athlete who may not have the skill set of everybody else, but makes immediate adjustments, is studying the game, is prepared for what's about to happen, physically ready to go, mentally ready to go, morally ready to go, which is really important now because we're losing that. And then I go, oh, you know, Kalika, I'll take 10 more just like her. And they're like, well, what about Diana? She's so tall and she's got, great length. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I can have the inconsistency. Sometimes it's awesome and sometimes she's not prepared, ready to go. Like, I need somebody there every time because you and I both know the reps count, right? Reps again and again build confidence. And so when we talk about confidence, it's built by prep and reps. And the kids who get that, they are very well prepared and they've done all the repetitions for what's about to happen. And our easy example of that is driving, right? Because you and I, we wouldn't think anything of driving down the street. Like, hey, go get in the car. Hey, can you guys go pick up a bottle of wine? Oh, yeah, sure. We'll stop by on the way back from where we get in the car. We talk, we navigate 80 instruments while you're driving, signage, lights, traffic, weather conditions, conversation, texting, sandwiches, like whatever you're doing while you're driving, right? And, but ask a 16-year-old, like, wait, by myself? Like, go to the store? Um, like, is this the
On
keys
the
for that
freeway?
car? Like, how do I get it out of park? Because that one kind of confuses me. And, I'm afraid people are going to cross the middle line in the road. And I'm really nervous about that. I'm like, well, self-preservation, they don't do that either. Like, they don't want to die either. So, like, but as we just done thousands and thousands of times of this, we don't think like, oh, Kalika, hey, I know I'm going to drive your car. Which one's the brake again? Like, we don't ask that. We have full
Where's the rear
confidence
view
because,
mirror?
yeah, we have
What's a
full
stop
skill. We
sign?
have The neural system's been built on it. We know exactly what it is. We studied, we had people guide us early, and then reps, 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 reps until we have full confidence. And so we can do the same things and apply it over anything.
Well, I love those 3 C's you mentioned: commitment, consistency, and confidence.
Yeah,
Is
big three.
that's the magic
Yeah, that's
combo?
the magic, right? Right there. Like it really is. And a lot of people come to me and go, wow, it's so hard to get to that next level. And I'm like, oh, really simple, actually. Right?
It
Like
is.
it's the formula is very simple, but the process and the discipline, everything that it takes is very difficult, right? And I think about like religion, right? Like, hey, here's a book and you're just going to follow the guidelines. Oh, it's right there all written. That's easy. And then you go, oh, I keep mucking this up a little bit, don't I? Like, hey, it's simple. It's just not easy. But the process, like you said, those 3 C's, those are very simple. If we can keep it simple and keep the focus on that, so much can be accomplished.
Yeah, and it is hard. I mean, like you said, simple but hard, because to get up at 4 or 5 AM to do your workouts or go on, to do beach plyos or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that takes commitment before you have to go to school, right? Like that takes a lot.
And if you talk to the people who your friends, and they know probably a lot of your friends, who own companies, they have made certain sacrifices that they never thought likely was a sacrifice. They're like, hey, this is simple. I need to get up at 4:30 and go down to the beach and do my plyo work and do my beach running, and I'm going to build up my leg strength. And then I work till 5:30. Then I get back, do my shower, get my breakfast, and then get off to school, and then have my work done. And so it's a commitment and it's a choice. But if I look back on that, I never thought sacrifice, right? I didn't think that way. I thought this is just what's required of me to be great. It's what it takes. And so if I had to look back and think like, we talk a lot about the two pains, the pain of regret or the pain of discipline, right? And so when I look back at that and I think like the pain of regret is chronic. Like I just it keeps playing through my mind. I wish I would have done something different. I wish I'd have been more prepared. I wish I'd been better reacted to something, and I didn't react well, and I was immature and all these things that come up. But when I think about the pain of discipline, of hill running and going to the beach at 4:30 in the morning, I've never heard a champion go back and go, "Oh man, I'm so ticked off. I did all that work to become a champion. Like, I'm just pissed off that I had to work really hard to become a champion." Like,
Or woe is
I've
me.
yeah, I've never heard that. I've never heard that. In fact, the fact of the matter is when we get together, Kalika, and we play on the same team, we share stories of being world champions that we like as like honor of how hard and challenging it was, and this coach who just drove us crazy and pushed us beyond measure, and we look back and we hated it in the moment, but we all got better because of that person, or because of what one of the California members says, Hazel Ortega. She's got that line on that pushy angel that will take you to that next level. Someone who doesn't feel like a real great friend sometimes because they hold you accountable and think they see your potential and want to push you to that top level. And at the time, they just feel like a real jerk around you. And then you look back and go,
I
oh, I
needed
had that
that.
pushy angel there driving me to be even better than I thought I could be. I didn't even know I could be this good. And they did, which is why they call Kalika the coach, because hey, I think I got this in me. Can you help me? And then you swoop in and become this pushy angel for them. Look at you. You got your wings right there behind you in the chair. It's like you're right there. You're ready. The puffy chair with the wings.
Yeah, no, I think that is such a wonderful attitude to have. And to be, there's a great book called Thanks for the Feedback. How to accept feedback, even though it's not uncalled for, or delivered in a bad, wrong way. That was one of the books that my daughter's volleyball coach recommended that she read. And she was saying that A lot of times when we ask for feedback, we don't even know what kind of feedback we want. Sometimes we want appreciation, sometimes we want evaluation, and sometimes we want coaching. And if we're not clear as entrepreneurs or athletes, then when you're expecting someone to say like, "Oh yeah, you did so great in that hurdle, blah blah," blah," but no, you really wanted to tell them, "No, what did I do wrong? How can I improve?" Right? So,
Yeah.
how do
I
you
I
give
think that's
feedback?
such a well, first of all, it's a double gift, right? It's a great gift from a coach that gets that. And when younger generation starts understanding that feedback is someone helping me get better, and like if I'm willing to accept that, like what a gift that is, that's a huge deal. And I think people miss that all the time. And I'm one of these weird folks, and people don't always appreciate this because in our company, right, you can't say problems because problems doesn't inspire anybody, right? Like, oh, I got a problem. Talika, you want to hear my problem? You're like, no, I don't really want to hear your problems. Like, do you have problems? Because I have my own, and I don't want to hear yours either. You know, so, but if you came to me and said, hey, Trent, I've got this challenge I've been working through, and it's got me up at night, and I'm like, "Ooh, Kalika, how can I help you? I'd like to get into your challenge," right? Because maybe I could be challenged by that too, because performers want to be challenged. They want to take that to the next level. And when people say that they have a challenge or a problem, like I get giddy. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be awesome. And they're like, no, 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 you didn't hear. It's a big problem. I'm like, guess what? Everyone who's ever gotten better in their life had a big problem, right? And I think of like even like a turn of the century in our country, like 1900, you've got only like so many automobiles that can be made. And it's like, oh, only the wealthy can own a car. We can't build infrastructure because not enough people are going to have them. So we have this huge challenge. And Ford goes, I think I can fix this. Like, you know what? I think we could do this little manufacturing like this. And I think we could do it in a way that I could pump out all these cars a day that would make it cost effective for actual normal people to own one for their household. And it was like, whoa, this huge issue just got resolved because one person says, that's interesting. I think I can do something about that. So if someone's out there and they're owning a company or they have a job, you're hired to fix things. Like all these challenges, if there aren't things to fix, guess what? They're not going to need you pretty soon, right? Like AI is going to take over the world. So like be lean into these challenges and be like, oh my gosh, it's so much. I'm going to help us get better today. And we bring a right attitude to the problems and challenges. Everything changes.
I think what's great and the reason why you are so successful as a leadership coach is, I believe that you can't coach someone beyond a point that you haven't been to yourself. What do you
Mm.
think about that?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. It's the ultimate question that I don't know the answer. I could say that some of the best players I've ever coached in the world, as players were fabulous and maybe didn't always understand the concept of the challenges of some of these younger folks that they coached. And at the same breath, the I never made it into the major leagues as a player, became a coach at 24, and I look at like Joe Madden, who was a very successful Major League Baseball coach who went to the World Series with he won a world championship with us as our bench coach, and then as a manager, he went to the World Series with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and then they won with the Cubs. And when you're not the best on your team, you have to study, you have to prepare, you have to do all the intangible things to get better. And so you really become a student of the game. So I find the coaches or the best coaches have been there. They've had some level of success to do it, which is probably the downside to me of our entrepreneurial programs at all these colleges because you have people go back like, hey, I'm the entrepreneurial professor. I'm like, oh, good. How many businesses have you started? Like, I've never started a business. Like, I'm
Zero.
like, wait a minute, you're directing these kids? Like, don't you think you should go through the trenches a couple times and find out, like, get some reps? And they're like, oh no, because I've read 1,700 books on this. And I'm like, oh man, that's dangerous to me. That to me is almost unethical of these universities to do that.
I completely agree. And sometimes it's even worse to get your MBA. I know one of my friends who is the CEO of Dermalogica. I think she had sold her business for like over $250 million, bootstrapped it. And she said sometimes when you go through these programs, uh, it sort of puts you in a box. Like you have to solve this problem this way. But if you did it by yourself, bootstrapping, not having money in the bank and still trying to figure it out, trying to make sales, sleeping on someone's couch, it hones you. It makes you
Oh yeah.
better.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about like, no plan B, right? You've seen a couple books about
Right.
that. And it's really interesting that I had a great buddy of mine. He's a coach for the Atlanta Braves, and he won a world championship a couple years ago with them. And he was on my show, and as you're going to be soon. And my show's called Winners Find a Way. And we were talking about, he's like, man, I got my master's degree at 51 years old. Like I went to college at 41 years old, and I was this baseball guy. I'm all in, and there's no backup. And so there's no catch net. There's no option for failure. So he did exactly what you're saying, Kalika. He kept working. He kept finding a way to stay in the game and better himself and better the players around him and better his staff. And he just kept doing it and doing it. And I think part of his success is that there was no plan B. And so I think there's something to that factor. Like, hey, when you really get into it, like, hey, is there another option I need to consider? Yeah, there probably is, but you don't need to consider it right now.
I had a conversation with another parent at my daughter's school. She goes to Harvard Westlake, and he had said, like, yeah, if my kid wants to start a company, because he wants to do computer science, I think. He said, as long as he has a backup plan, right? And I'm thinking to myself, if I went into business thinking that I had a backup, I wouldn't have succeeded. For me,
Yeah.
failure was not an option. It's like you're on a tightrope and there's no net. I
Yeah.
mean, your brain starts thinking solutions, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the only thing it can think, right? Because like you said, the other option's been removed from it because it doesn't exist. And so I think there's so much strength and power in that. People do not understand that aspect of it. They do not get the fact that a commitment is all in, right? It is 100%. This is what we're doing. And, we could look at that in our marriages, right? We go in front of our friends and our family, and usually somewhere in a religious setting, we say, hey, listen, I love this person and they love me, and I'm making a commitment to you for my lifetime. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, well, until next week when you see a sign, it's like, 999 divorcee, quickie. You're like, what? Like, hey man, are you in it or not? And man, it's not gonna be easy. There's all sorts of like challenges in that, but that's part of the whole thing you develop. I mean, you've got this lovely family and you're doing it the best you can, and it's not easy, right? You run into challenges, and man, I'd love that we all be on the same page, and we're not all the time. It's not gonna be, this life wasn't promised to be easy. But it is great. It is awesome. And that's what I love about the entrepreneur folks is they just they're living it to the fullest, the good and the bad.
I think that entrepreneurs just have so many more experiences than other people have, right? Like you said, and we have that attitude that we can meet and master any challenge because there's no way out. I mean, this is it for you. And when I see a lot of companies who have VC money and they have that burn rate, and like I sometimes think that that is such a disadvantage of them to have this money in the bank because they're sort of like sitting on the laurels. They're not coming up with the creative ideas. Like one of our clients, the Dollar Shave Club, like he had no money to start Dollar Shave Club,
Yeah.
right? Like he had that video and he was just like, I'm just going to use my talent as a funny guy. He was also a baseball player, by the way. Um, and I'm going to just make it happen. And that's
What
what
a
he
great
did.
business. I
Yeah.
mean, brilliant, by the way. Like the whole model is brilliant. I love it. And so it's yeah, I
But
think
I'll just tell this story just a little bit. Like he actually got 50,000 free shavers from China, and all he wanted to do was make $50,000.
sell them for $1.
For $1, Dollar Shave Club. Like,
Yeah.
that was it. That was just a simple idea, but you can see, like, what happened, you know? And I remember when I was talking to him about his branding, he wanted to call it, like, the Ninja Dollar Shave Club, because I think that that's what the shavers. I'm just like, "No, no, no, branding is also really important, like, drop the ninja, you know, like, just Dollar Shave Club." He's like, "Okay, let's try it." He used to come to EO events with us, with me.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
and that's the cool stories that you constantly hear in EO, right? This how do I continue to get better? What I set out to do on this path was here was my vision, and of course, it ends up as a vision over here. Like, whoa, I got to go over to that path because that path actually looks better. And so, we think we got these cool names. Yeah, we're gonna call it Ninja. Like, no, no ninja, no ninja needed here. Like, just Dollar Shave Club. Like, but like you said, it's right back to keep it simple, right? Like, this is what people get. They're gonna understand it, and no ninjas needed here. Like, everybody shaves their face, pay $1, like they'll get it. And man, that's a great story of people that you set out one thing and a whole another pivot or shift happens and something else. And part of that is happening because they do have good advisors around them, like yourself and like people that have come in. And that's another huge value of EO. I mean, the network's amazing, filled with just people who have not only been great advisors, but they've also had that great advisement themselves, which they bring all the time. And that's the big hyper learning part.
What type of advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's listening to this podcast?
Mm. Well, I think that first of all, I believe in live the dream, right? I believe in that. Just understand that some days it's gonna be a little nightmarish, but it's still a dream, right? Like you're still living the dream and be realistic about, what that dreams aren't easy, right? It's rare air and you're gonna go in. I mean, I think that this is part of that deal if you're gonna be in entrepreneurship. It's a wonderful wild ride. It's not an easy ride. I wish I would have been able to tell my wife all the things that are gonna happen in the next 30 years with me on this journey. And she'd have been like, yeah, I'm not down with that. Like, she would have opted out a long time ago. Like, I don't think I would have ever got to matrimony on like if I had told her, hey, this is how it's gonna be, from embezzlement to almost foreclosing on properties. And I mean, it has been a long and winding road and quite a journey that of all my experiences, like I wouldn't trade for anything. Like it's been hard and been great. So we were in forum last week and I said, man, it's a little bit schizophrenic, right? Like I feel like it's a little bit like, whoa, bipolar. I am at the high and like an hour and a half later, I'm like, we must be the dumbest company in the world. How did we all miss this, right? And so it feels a little bipolar, but it is amazing, and it's also such an honorable profession. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, it means you're going to be the one who has to really evaluate risk and create opportunities for others. And one of the things I love about it, which I think our world needs more of, is it's never about us. I mean, it's all about the customer. It's all about our teams. It's all about people and our vendors helping make the product go. And this whole thing just keeps going and collaborating with others. And so it's another one of those values of other centered that we need more of right now. I think. And so I just think it's a really honorable profession and I would say here's another thing that intrigues me about EO, and I might be stepping on toes here, but whatever. Like it's what I do. So, I think like I look at how many attorneys are in EO, and there's many. And I'm an educator, and I think both of us, this category, I'm a person who fell into this is what I think I want to do, and I want to study, and that really has served me as a coach, as a teacher. But when I went to a school system, I found out that wasn't a great environment for me. I didn't love that environment. This is something. So I had to pivot and stay in professional athletes, stay in opening up companies and brands and figuring out how to do that well because I didn't think I could do the school thing. As I think some friends of mine have gone through 8 years of education to be a lawyer and then gone, I don't like the job. I don't like the role I fill. And so I'm going to take all these skills and the learnings I've done because they didn't miss that. That's for sure. And now they bring it into this entrepreneurial world because A, it's probably a little bit more of an honorable profession. And B, they still get to use those skills. And C, they don't have to go to something every day that they just dislike. And hey, I know a bunch of lawyers who love their job. So it's not like this is for everybody. But don't think that because you got training in something else, you can't pivot and create value for people in this world in other places. Because I see it every day. You and I and EO, like we have 15,000 testimonials of people creating value in the world. And they did it and they're doing it their way.
One of my friends is also a JD, so she got a law degree and an MD
Wow.
and is an entrepreneur. And that's what she's really passionate about. So I completely agree. It's such a great foundation. I mean, don't think that it was a waste. You shouldn't have that regret, right? Because that law degree, those we my lawyer is one of my trusted advisors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. And I mean, you're exactly right. Like this life isn't, hey, it's only got to be this one way because you spent a number of years studying that. That's take the experience, use it. There's so much more you can do with it. And people have done it again and again. So it's not like it hasn't been proven. So I always think about for young folks, the one thing I would think that I think the media has done a disservice to entrepreneurship is I think some people have felt like um hey, it's easy. Build a website. Everybody's coming and you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to be the next Rich Dad Poor Dad or 4 Hour Work Week. And I love these names. I love these books. I love them all. And they're really good. Um, but I think there's a little bit misconception in a young person's mind of what this actually is. And you and I always talk about the hours, right, that we put in, like the cost of ownership and the people who actually think you're a business owner and work 4 hours a week are seriously mistaken. Right? Like I know very few who get that luxury.
One of the top most watched videos are those videos on passive income. But the thing is, there's no such thing as passive income, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're constantly working, tweaking to create that value. Because the moment that what you've built doesn't create it anymore, passive income goes to zero, right? And so you're back at the drawing board. So if you don't monitor and manage it, can that really is sustainability one of those big idiots, right? Is always in question. And so it's the last thing we can afford, right? Is to go back and do that. And so I think that's if someone is out there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and work a lot less," um, the big idiot in entrepreneurship is responsibility, and it's all yours. And so at the end of the day, the buck will stop at you. And so understand you're undertaking a big process there. And so, hey, that's minimized by creating great people around you that can also take a lot of that responsibility. But ultimately, your name's on the check, like this is how it's got to go. And so it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and I think well worth it, but I don't want people to be misled.
Yeah, and that they can also work smarter, not harder, in the sense that they can, surround themselves with entrepreneurs like people in EO, or listen to podcasts, where you can, if you don't know anyone who's an entrepreneur, listen to people who are entrepreneurs so that you can learn and gain from them. But yeah, but definitely, how has it been with your experience with EO?
Oh, well, my experience has been just incredible. I mean, it's 12 years now, I think, and I've met some of the best people that I ever could. Definitely, uh, you know, like-hearted. We are beating in the same blood, right? And so it's been a fabulous run. Now, I wouldn't say like. We're not the same people. We come from very different backgrounds. We come from very different environments, learnings, education, socioeconomic, everything. I mean, it is the melting pot of society. But it's been absolutely incredible to come alongside these folks, check my ego at the door for sure, and just humbly learn together. And I think that's probably taught me a lot about leading. If you wanna think you're really good at leadership, come lead the entrepreneurs. Like that is that's herding cat right there. So you're gonna find out that is not easy. And so anytime you wanna test your skills, jump in, right?
Yeah, I always tell everyone like it's an interactive leadership game once you join like the board of EO. And I was president in 2018 for the EO LA chapter. And the best thing that I learned, like someone had told me at a president's meeting that, 'cause there were so many great leaders, right, that you see in EO. And I'm like, I want to be like Brian Brawl. I want to be like Trent, but you cannot be like them. You have to just show up as yourself. And so that was a big advice. So if people are listening right now, it's just you can take who you are, how are diverse, your vast, experience, like we talked about those hours of experience, and make it your own and lead and coach in that way.
Oh, yeah, I think that's such good advice, and it's funny when you and I first met, it was 2018, and you came to the mentoring session, for your chapter as the president, and first of all, that always means a lot to me when someone asks me to come in and speak about mentorship, and the president of 180 entrepreneurs shows up and says, "Hey, this is important," and you didn't have to say it out loud. Your presence said everything. And I'm looking at you like, hey, that's the kind of leader I want to be, showing up for my fellow contingency to say, hey, we're committed here and this is how we do it. And we're here to get you better. And so these educational programs are brought in very well funded, very well thought out, because all of us are committed to helping you get better. And nothing says that more than your presence, because we know as entrepreneurs how valuable that time is, and we could all put a dollar sign on that, and it's pretty big per hour, right? So when you ask someone to come in and commit 3 4 hours to you in this environment, it's no joke. And for those folks who are going to go out there and teach and learn like you do, um, we have a big responsibility when you take executives and put them in a room. You realize that the room is operating at $28,000 in billable an hour. And so
Exactly.
they're going to be with you for 4 hours creating, you know, a lot of value, right? We're talking about over 100, 100 and almost $120,000 just in those 4 hours. So as a trainer and developer of people, an organization is likely going to expect 5x that. So our executives came in, spent 4 hours with Trent at $120,000 to yield a $500,000 in revenue or savings or to our bottom line. And that's the expectation behind that. And for people who don't take that responsibility seriously, understand the room, because these are the folks you're dealing with at this level, and it's significant. So there's not a single item in EO that I've ever heard is the worst event is where I wasted my time. I came in and someone wasn't prepped, it wasn't good, they weren't prepared, they didn't have the information, they weren't clear about instruction. They felt like they wasted their time. That is the ultimate zero in environment.
Well, we certainly didn't waste time. I still remember, like, when I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this mentorship event," I had no idea what a mentor really did. Or remember, I think you had this one slide of, like, this stool with, like, 3 legs or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to everyone?
Yeah, so it's something we really create in the EO environment of a great relationship is built on a couple things, and we're both equally responsible. So we get the, three-legged chair. And so we build that on bringing our, all of our trust, right? That we're gonna trust one another, which comes from a bunch of idioms like confidentiality and authenticity, and these big things that we're gonna bring. And then we're also gonna have a structure to that time we meet, and so that's very important. So we have an agenda, and we have some goals and some things we're going to meet and do together. And so that's very important. And then lastly is we're going to actually do what we say we're going to do, right? We're going to actually follow through, do the prep work, be all in on it. And when we do those three things for meetings, things go really well. And so when we have an environment where we have someone who's come before us 10 or 15 years ahead of us as a mentor, who literally you want them to do, you want to do like something they've already accomplished. Like you have them right in front of you, and you have this opportunity for them to teach you, show you, guide you, help you along that way. I mean, don't waste those moments because they're so big.
And another thing that I think that you also mentioned was that the relationship with a mentor and a mentee, even though we're at EO together, it's
Yes.
asymmetrical, and that you have to be open to getting another entrepreneur's advice. And that I think you said, was also scarce and also, really valuable, right? Because a lot of times we take it for granted, like, oh, I'll just have a mentor. Oh, no, no, no. Like having a mentor is a big deal here in
Yeah,
EO.
yeah, yeah. It's a big deal. And by the way, it can make or break you in a community. When you think about the entrepreneur organizations like in what I call like little big cities like Cleveland and Nashville and Indianapolis, and think about those middle market, towns. And um the entrepreneur organization and YPO and accelerator, these are the business owners in this community. So if you go in and muck up relationships, especially with a senior member of the community, because EO is so good about providing this senior member or someone who's come before you has more experience than you do, and who's likely done something that you have not done, and they're willing to come along and guide you. And so they have a lot of respect and trust in that community. And then you mismanage that relationship and don't bring your best into it. That's not going to show well for you in the community. It's not going to be good, and you're not going to get to where you go. You've been waking up in the middle of the night because this is what I'm dreaming about, and this thing's just got me vexed, and I want to accomplish that. And now you've got the chance to get it done with this person who's going to come alongside, and then you go muck up the relationship and not do the work, and don't build that authority and trust in your community as a hard worker. So it kind of comes back to that. People used to always tell me in pro baseball, Kalika, it's all who you know. And I thought, that's not exactly true. It's actually who knows you and how they know you to be. Because when I think about that, like someone asked me and says, oh, well, Kalika's going to be successful because she knows this person. I'm like, oh, well, does this person know her? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, then the relationship doesn't have value unless that person goes, "Oh, hey," like I would be like, "Oh, Kalika? Oh, she's a person of integrity. She's been the president of an organization. She has high quality integrity. You can call all of her references." All these entrepreneurs will come alongside her and talk about her work ethic and her diligence and her resilience. And so I'm happy to put my name behind her as saying, "Hey, this is a person I lift up and would honor to be a reference for." And so when that happens, now it's who knows you and how they know you to be, as opposed to going, "Oh, well, I think Trent's kind of, he's lazy. He doesn't work very hard. He doesn't finish a lot of the projects. He's finished about half of them." Like all of a sudden, like, wait a minute. Yeah, they know me, but how they know me is not great. And now it's going to create problem for me to move to that next level. And so it's not who you know, it's who knows you and how they know you to be.
That is awesome. I've never heard of that before. So thanks so much for teaching me that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and back
no,
to that, yes, you have to be all in, whether or not you're being mentored or menteeing or an athlete and leader, being a leader and yeah, being fully engaged, being all in is really also a great trait as an entrepreneur.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. And there's so many other things I want to talk to you about because you have all those topics that you talk about. I think you do disc, you are so bright. And I would love to have you back on the podcast maybe in a couple of months to just see how you're doing and talk more about some awesome topics.
Love to jump in again, Talika. We can always talk some shop. There's plenty to conversate about being entrepreneurs in this world, and getting her done is not going to be easy, but it's a great world. So I just really honor everybody out there on the journey and hope they enjoyed listening today.
Maybe you can just tell them your website, your podcast again, and I don't know, you also your website maybe. And
Yeah, so
everything
I'm
on.
at leadershipity.com. That's our coaching company. And then I also have Athletic Influencer Marketing, which is an NIL company for all those athletes like your daughter who are getting into creating absolutely my three favorite things: education, athletics, and entrepreneurship in the name, image, likeness world for athletes, which is going to be super fun. And now the high school athletes in California can do it too, by the way.
Oh,
And yeah, it's a big deal. And so that's at aim for the number 4 nil.com, AIM for nil.com. And then you can find me on all the socials at Trent M. Clark or Leadershipity. And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me and say hello, and always happy to talk some shop. Oh, and the podcast is Winners Find a Way, as you know. Yeah. Thank you.
everywhere, right? Spotify.
Everywhere, all the
Okay.
major networks, winners find a way. I love the quote, Kalika, winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. And, you know, that was from the 4 disciplines of execution. And wow, when I think about all my friends like yourself, like you've been up against like, hey, the scoreboard's sideways. This is not going well in the business. We're losing money in this. How do we adapt? How do we change? And that's what winners do. They figure out, they find a way.
Yes, they do. All we do is win. I'm saying that song. All right. Thank
Thought you
you
were gonna
so
start
much.
singing.
What?
I
I
thought
know.
you were gonna start singing it next,
Next time, maybe. All right. Have an awesome day. Thank you again. You're the best.
Thanks, Cleve.